Hello everyone, Prosperity here. Legion is less than a month away, so let's continue on with this class guide series. With these videos, I'm hoping to help you to lay out the foundation for your class and spec. Without further ado, welcome to the expert guide to the Frost Death Knight in Legion. Before we get started with this video, I'll post the links to the first two videos for Frost on screen and in the description below. Take a moment to pause this video and watch those as they lay the groundwork for what I'll be talking about in this guide. Now that we're all caught up, let's get to work. For this video, we're going to focus on the 21 talents available to the Frost DK, going tier by tier to see what each one does. Once we've gone through them all, I'll give you my general thoughts. Starting off with the first tier at level 56 from left to right, we have Shattering Strikes, which passively gives your Frost Strike an additional 40% damage when it consumes 5 stacks of Razor Ice on the target. This talent effectively gives you a third resource to manage. Taking Icy Talons makes your Frost Strike increase your melee attack speed by 10% for 6 seconds, stacking 3 times. This talent is extremely useful for auto attack dependent builds, but is not recommended otherwise. Taking Murderous Efficiency gives you a 50% chance to gain 1 rune when you consume the Killing Machine effect. This talent is the least consistent of the tier, but allows for the potential for increased rune generation. Going down to the second tier at 57, we have Freezing Fog, which gives a flat damage increase of 25% to your Howling Blast and Frost Fever, slightly increasing your baseline AoE damage. Taking Frozen Pulse causes your auto attacks to deal additional frost damage to all nearby enemies when all your runes are depleted. Taking this talent is not recommended if you've taken Murderous Efficiency, as the extra rune generation would cause less time for this effect to hit. Taking Horn of Winter gives you the ability on a 30-second cooldown. When used, you gain 2 runes and 10 runic power. This skill should be used as early in a fight as possible and kept on cooldown to get the most out of it. The third tier at level 58, taking Icecap causes your Frost Strike, Frost Scythe if you've slotted the talent, and Obliterate critical strikes to reduce the cooldown of Pillar of Frost by 1 second. Taking Hungering Rune Weapon replaces Empower Rune Weapon. It's still on a 3-minute cooldown, but causes you to gain 1 rune and 5 runic power as soon as you use it, and again every 1.5 seconds for 12 seconds. This results in 9 runes and a total of 45 runic power gained over the duration, compared to the 6 runes and 25 runic power generated by the base ability. Taking Avalanche causes your melee crits to deal additional frost damage to all enemies nearby when Pillar of Frost is active. This is a great talent to take if you haven't taken any of the AoE talents in the tree so far, but should be avoided otherwise. Moving on to the 4th tier at level 60, taking Abominations Might causes your Obliterate crits to have a chance to stun enemies for 2 seconds, or daze for 5 seconds if used against a player. Taking Blinding Sleep gives you the ability on a 1-minute cooldown. When used, Blinding Sleep will blind all targets in a cone in front of you, disorienting them for 4 seconds. This ability is extremely useful for stopping multiple casters from casting, but is very weak if used otherwise. Taking Winter is Coming causes enemies struck by your Remorseless Winter 5 times to be stunned for 4 seconds if your Pillar of Frost is active. This ability is a much stronger version of Blinding Sleep that requires a little more input than just pressing a button. Taking this talent with the Icecap talent also has the potential to give you more frequent stuns. Moving down to the 5th tier at level 75, taking Volatile Shielding causes your anti-magic shell to no longer generate runic power, but increases the damage absorption by 35% and causes it to explode with 25% of all damage absorbed when it expires, divided across all nearby enemies. Taking Permafrost causes your successful auto attacks to give you a shield for 30% of the damage dealt that lasts until depleted. Basically, this means that as long as you're hitting something, you take about 5 to 10% less damage. Taking White Walker causes you to take 20% reduced damage while in Wraithwalk and also slow enemies near you by 50% for 3 seconds, allowing you to get away with relatively greater ease. Let's move to the 6th tier at level 90. Taking Frost Scythe gives you the ability, costing 1 rune and generating 10 runic power. Using this ability deals frost damage to all enemies within 8 yards in front of you, gaining the benefits from Killing Machine and dealing 4 times the normal damage on a critical strike. Taking Runic Attenuation causes your auto attacks to generate 1 runic power. This is a great talent to consider if you've taken the Icy Talons talent, as increasing your melee attack speed will generate more runic power for you to use. Taking Gathering Storm causes each rune you spend during Remorseless Winter to increase the damage by 10% and extend the duration by half of a second. This is extremely powerful if coupled with a cooldown that unlocks runes, giving you the potential to extend the duration by up to 12 seconds. Wrapping up with the final tier at level 100, taking Obliteration gives you the ability on a 1.5 minute cooldown. Using Obliteration causes every Frost Strike to trigger Killing Machine and your Obliterate to cost 1 rune for 8 seconds. This talent also works extremely well with Frost Scythe as it gives you the flexibility between single target and AoE situations. Taking Breath of Sindragosa gives you the ability on a 2-minute cooldown. When activated, you continuously deal Shadow Frost damage to your target and slightly less to all other enemies in a frontal cone. This ability costs 13 runic power per second and persists until you run out of runic power or cancel the effect. This is not a channeled effect, so you are free to use any abilities you wish while the ability is active. Taking Glacial Advance gives you the ability on a 15-second cooldown and costs 1 rune to use. Using the ability shoots out spikes in the direction you're facing, dealing a tremendous amount of damage to all enemies along its path. This ability also generates 10 runic power when used, making this a solid AoE choice. Now that we've made it through all the talents, it's time for my general thoughts on the tree as a whole. The build choices here resemble a MOBA-esque system that has you choose between either a good auto-attack dependent or a skill-based build. There are more options available for AoE abilities than single target, and only 1 or 2 options between tiers that can detract from a choice in a previous tier. All around, I see potential for a few different good builds with this tree. As for me, my favorite build so far is Icy Talons, Frozen Pulse, Icecap, Winter is Coming, White Walker, Runic Attenuation, and Breath of Sindragosa. This build is not optimal by any means, but has a lot of cool synergies between the talent choices that can be devastating. That's all I have for the expert guide to the Frost Death Knight, but not for the end of the series. Once Legion launches, I'll have more guides for each spec going over builds and skill priorities. In the meantime, be sure to subscribe to see more of my class guides. As always, feel free to ask any questions you have about Frost or anything regarding World of Warcraft in the comments below, or on Twitter at TheLoranzas. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, have fun.